Absolutely. Well, my name's Lindsay Rose. I'm the lead vocalist and lyricist of Primrose Path. We recently released a song called Irrelevance, which I think was a really big step up from our previous releases. We tactically had a change of drummer, if I can put it that way, about 6 months ago, with the view of being able to sort of up the ante of what we're doing rhythmically. Previously our emphasis has always been on the sort of melodic aspects of progressive writing, but we thought if we want to be competitive in this market and also play the sort of things that we really get off on playing, then we need to sort of get a little bit heavier. So Irrelevance, I think, is a bit of a taste of what's to come. It's the first single off our debut album that we've released. So
Easy. Thanks for joining us today, Lindsay.
no, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So we mentioned the recent song Irrelevance, which was released towards the end of last month. So how's the early reception been? You say it's a bit of a change of direction, but have people grasped onto it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually completely humbled by the reception that it's had, including by fans of ours that we've had for the last 2 years, because I think it was a bit of a change. We're completely astonished that it's had over 20,000 views on YouTube. We certainly didn't expect that for a sort of small-time local band from Perth. But there's been a few people do reviews of it that have been really positive. And also we've had support from places like the Prog Mind and the Prog Space, who have, further published it and said very positive things. So I think it really was a step in the right direction, albeit that it was, I mean, it's not that different to what we were doing. It's just heavier.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's been really positively received.
Cool. So along those lines, mate, dive into it a bit more from a musical point of view from it. Like you say, it was heavier, but how so?
Well, I mean, I think this song took a lot of influence from bands like Meshuggah, where we had this sort of like, really tightly squished in quadruplet kicking and very, very, very tight chugging patterns on the guitar with more sort of uh, like whining type lead guitar that was not as necessarily as complex and sophisticated as say some of our other songs are. But vocally was intended to be a bit of a melodic challenge to sort of have synergy between what the lead guitar was doing, what the vocals were doing. And I think we were our mixing engineer's worst nightmare because we were like, no, we we want the vocals to sit at a similar level to the lead guitar. It's supposed to be like a siren in the ocean, like a warning. And so whilst that's probably against all of the rules of mixing lead guitar and vocals, we were like, nah, that's how we envisaged it. So it's different in the sense that it's heavier because I think the chugging in that particular song is heavier. The drumming is clearly heavier. But melodically, I think similar to what we've produced in the past, where with really big, sort of powerful, like cathartic melodies that a listener can sort of gain some kind of like build up and release from. So there's still that similarity in our songwriting. It's just we're a sucker for a good Meshuggah song, so couldn't help ourselves.
And it also comes with a music video. So tell us how that ties in with the song lyrically.
Yeah, so I mean, the song is about. I mean, I'll start with what it's about. The song is about really the human experience of trying to achieve something and how you often rely on support to do that. And I mean, I don't need to. I'm preaching to the converted to say that it's very hard to often garner that support. And then it's not until they actually see a product afterwards that suddenly they turn around and they're your biggest advocate. It's this sort of kind of hedonistic self-indulgency that exists not just as artists, but I mean, I've experienced it in my career. I'm sure we all experience it daily. So the song was really about that. So the video, the relationship to that is that where we filmed it, like millions of dollars had been pumped into this building to be refurbished. It was otherwise quite a derelict old hall. I think it's attached to like an old mental asylum or something. And so we wanted the beginning of the song to be captured in an empty space, this big overinvested empty space. There was no one in it but us, sort of escaping where we're sort of not a city's behind you and you're just persevering your own way and forging your own path anyway. And so that was sort of the idea of moving from this Like, it's an extraordinary building, truly one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever been in. We wanted there to be this sort of juxtaposition between this dead, empty vessel of a space that's had heaps of money pumped into it versus this huge city full of people behind you.
And you sort of gave this away before, I think, but is it a standalone song or part of a bigger picture?
So it's part of a bigger picture. We've got a debut album that we're putting together called Ruminations. Each song very much has a life of its own. So it's the first single from that album. Although we are actually re-recording one of our first release, Down and Out. We've redone it, revamped it. It's a totally new piece of music. It's actually being re-recorded for that album as well. But the idea behind, I mean, lyrically, I can't speak on behalf of the whole band, but lyrically, when I've written these songs, the idea behind it will be that each sort of song has its own character, its own sort of life, its own story to tell in the album. So it's not a full album that's going to have perfect continuity song to song. Say, like, for example, Dark Pool by Thornhill has, where you listen to that start and beginning to end, and it's just clearly one giant piece of music. This was more about capturing the different, for me lyrically, different things that we ruminate about. So our next single that's coming out, Viscera, is about pain. So where Irrelevance was about finding your own relevance, Viscera is about pain and how pain can interfere with your intuition. And so it has a different feel altogether. A lot of the songs have their own sort of feel, their own groove about it. And it's really to capture all of these different things that we sit down and we sort of self-destruct with when we ruminate about it. And you know, I'm sure every artist does that. I'm sure most people do it to some extent. But we wanted to sort of capture that in an album. So yeah, it's interesting because there is some disconnect between some of the songs styles that we drew influences from. Some of them have a lot of influence from, say, black metal. One of them has a deathcore breakdown in it. You know, others are more rocky and psychedelic and ambient, or might be a fusion of all of that. We've really, because we come from such eclectic backgrounds listening to music, like we love so many different things. I mean, some of our songs started out as, you know, being inspired by funk music. You know, we're trying to come up with a way to deliver our sound, but drawing influence from a really vast array of music. And I think Brenton, who's our lead guitarist, but also our primary music writer, Brenton does that really well. And then Scott, our bass player, who actually also writes a few of the songs on the album as well, you know, have found a way to deliver what a Primrose Path sound is, in conjunction with my melody writing and my lyric writing, whilst also being authentic and true to the genres that we draw a great deal of inspiration from without mimicking them, because you know, it's hard to do that.
That actually leads me into my next question, because your music's got a mix of grunge, black metal, djent, death metal, melodic metal, as you say. But how do you get the balance right in each song, and how do you know when you've gone too far?
Oh, I don't know. I guess when we jam them out, if it feels good, if it feels like what we're performing is telling the story we wanted it to, then the song's a success. I mean, the point of our music is to storytell. I mean, from a lyric perspective, I don't write lyrics in the same way, but I draw a lot of inspiration off, say, people like Leonard Cohen, who, you know, were telling stories behind their music. I write more conceptually than him, but that's still the goal in the actual music itself, is to take a person on a journey. So there's a start and an end to each song. If the song hasn't got there smoothly, if there isn't good fluidity in that process, if it's not feeling right, then we put it on a back burner. And we have a lot of songs on a back burner because we haven't quite been able to finesse them in a way that we think is commercially viable, but also that feels good. You know, we want people to feel what we're feeling when we're performing it. So if that's not working, then we ditch it.
Oh, cool. And in the press release, the term psychedelic space witch metal was thrown about. Is that something you gave yourselves, or is something the media gave you?
No, we didn't give it ourselves, but we love it because
Cool.
it's just so true live. Like, so it's actually, I think it was our second ever show. A chap in the audience came up to us and he was like, just ecstatic. Like we really pride ourselves on our live shows. Like I said, we want people to feel our music, so we're just we're very precise and very tight, but we also like to perform, and it gets a bit theatrical, especially me. I mean, I've been known to like crawl all over the floor and all kinds of shit. But he said he said at the end of it, he was like, wow, what genre are you? And we said, we don't know. We don't know what genre we are. And so he just flippantly said, I think you're avant-garde psychedelic space witch metal. And we thought that's actually probably as close to it as we've got. I mean, we're definitely post-progressive, but I think that's probably the best genre. And also, it's funny because it helped us work out what our identity was. Like this random chap from, I think he was from like Bunbury or something, because we realized that, we do have a sort of spookiness about us, and our music can be quite dark at times. I mean, mostly quite dark. And there is something quite sort of haunting about the performances. And, we certainly wouldn't take it as far as a band like Sleep Token, for example, where their whole image and whole marketing and PR is wrapped up in this thing. But we definitely like it, and it gives us a way to relate to our fans as well, sort of, often encouraging people to sort of get space witchy and be a bit weird and stuff live is fun.
Speaking of live, you've got a show coming up tonight with Rin Rin in Perth. So tell us about that. She's lovely. I interviewed her a couple of months ago. She's lovely, eh?
Yeah, she's gorgeous. This is the second time we've played with Rin, actually. We played with them supporting Patient 67 last year. No, we're really looking forward to it. It's I'm a bit nervous because I've actually not sung the set through, because I'm not kidding when I tell you I've just got my voice back in the sort of got my voice back in the last 48 hours. But no, we're very much looking forward to it. It's our first show with our new drummer and our new guitarist as well. So we're also going to be debuting Irrelevance live for the first time, which we're crazy excited about because it is just such a monster to play, and it's so exciting when you get through it. We're also playing with Legacy Alive, who are a fantastic melodic metal band, also from Perth, and Colormind, who are, I suppose, more like a pop punk band from Perth. It's a pretty eclectic lineup, but it sort of works for Rin Rin, and I think because Rin, in my assessment of their music, draws a lot from the sort of pop punk as well as metalcore. So I thought Colormind would be a great band to open, and Legacy Live just put on a great show. They're just absolute weapon performers. So I think, having the opportunity to put four very different but also very entertaining bands on should draw a really interesting audience to Old Convenience. So looking forward to it. It's going to be good. I'm not looking forward to the tiny stage for a 5-piece band. It's pretty hard work. I think I've had basses to the eye a few times when we played at Convenience last time. But no, it should be good, and I'm very, very pleased that that they invited us to play with them again. We're probably the two most, I mean, there are female-fronted metal bands in Perth, but I'd say we're probably, there's probably only one other that's sort of playing as heavy as we are. So it's nice to be able to sort of work collegially, with other bands that are sort of, dealing with some of the same issues that many female-fronted bands do, where it's like, oh, you're female-fronted, you're not heavy enough. Man, I do gutturals. I know how to freaking scream. Come on.
All right. All right, Lindsay. Well, thanks very much for your time tonight. Irrelevance is out now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've updated that, but yeah. So thanks very much for your time tonight, Lindsay. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Irrelevance is out now. The gig's on tonight if you got nothing on in Perth. And best of luck with everything. Hope you're go rest your voice up.
Cheers.
And rest your voice up.
I will. Have a great afternoon.
I will. You too. Nice to speak to you.
Ciao. Bye.